Hello, everyone, and welcome to the next episode of Human Intelligence. Today, we're talking with Reese, and I'm gonna let her to tell her story, and then ask the questions that come up with all the topic. Hi, Reese.
Hey, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic, thank you. So,
Okay.
hi everyone. I'm Reese, and
Yeah.
before I was an author and an indigenous medicine woman, I was paralyzed as a teenager.
Okay, but how did it happen?
Wow, unfortunately, as a child, I had misdiagnosed fibromyalgia that they considered epilepsy. And instead of dealing with the root cause of what was causing seizures, they medicated me, nothing worked, and eventually I had two brain surgeries, of which, during the second one, I essentially had a stroke, and I was 16 years old.
Wow, that's craziness. And that's what I was about to ask. How old were you? You were 16, and do you still remember that moment, or you were already in a hospital and were you in coma when it happened, or were you conscious when it happened?
Um, Conscious. I mean, I it happened during surgery. But they
Mm.
woke me up the next day, and I was fully conscious. They had to tell me what had happened. I was horrified. I
Mm-hmm.
truly, in that moment, despite being the nerdy kid that understood the science and how I could recover, I my biggest fear is that I wouldn't.
Mm. Okay, but let me say this one. So you just the body was not able to move, right? Nothing in a body, or
It
how?
it was just the left side of my body.
So one side of your body was not able to move, another side was completely fine. Because me and the viewers, they have not experienced it, so they have no idea what it can be like.
Right? And honestly, even though my right side was entirely fine and my left side was basically like starting over like a baby, I was fortunate. I could write with my right hand just fine. And even though I had a 2-month hospital stay, after that it was continued rehab for, I mean, honestly, the rest of my life to make sure things work properly. But mostly like the first few years were very intense.
Do you remember what you were thinking, that the like your thoughts to get your were you first against it? Like, why? What were you thinking? You were like, why did it happen to me, or what you were thinking?
I think I was mostly afraid because I went from a kid that trained and competed in martial arts to a kid that was in a wheelchair. And from there, I didn't see a path forward. And for me, that was very scary. I've always been the person that plans every move of their life. And honestly, I would say mostly fear. Like there was a part of me that wanted to just lay down and give up. But I guess the resilient side of me said, let's do this.
Hmm. So the other side was saying you can do this, and uh, you get to do. Did the other side of the other that there's two inner talks? So the other side, did it tell you? Did you had a feeling of what you should be doing?
I knew I needed to work as hard as I could, and Not just follow the exercises prescribed, but try to get back to training in sport. Like that
Mm-hmm.
was the physical goal, and I got there. Like that wasn't a hard one. But I it was okay. How do I make the muscles move perfectly again so that nobody can tell this ever happened? And to this day, when I'm sore, I still have a bit of a limp.
Mm-hmm. So, but you said it took 2 years to recover, like most of
Well,
it.
the the majority of the major motor function within the muscles was within the first 2 years. But I would say between the 2 and the 7 year mark was the fine tuning of everything, making sure that like my dexterity was better in my hands and that I could wiggle my toes and such.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I can't because like most people, we can't even imagine the fact that we can't wiggle our toes. You
Right?
know.
It was very strange. And there were moments where, like, because there was modified feeling in that side, my legs would be crossed and I would look at that the right side of my body, like even though my legs were crossed, and think that my foot was moving and my toes were wiggling. But then I realized, I'm like, that's the wrong foot, dummy.
Mm-hmm. So in your own mind, you were moving, but your body, you didn't see the movement. So in your head, you
Yeah,
were moving, but your body, then you look at your body and it's not happening.
and exactly. It was like, oh no, that's not it.
That's just crazy to think of. So
Right?
what did the doctors do?
Honestly, I they prescribed me physiotherapy and occupational therapy, and I had continued support once I was home for 6 months, which was not helpful. They were not very qualified professionals.
Okay.
But that is more when I leaned into my traditional indigenous medicine training, and I
What?
learned into our ways within the Cree to naturally heal a body, because
Mhm.
I needed alternates because there was no way I wanted to be a limping, sad human being for the rest of my life.
Mhm. So that's mainly mindset. So tell us more about that modality of healing.
Well, I mean, I would say that it was herbs to manage pain and really focusing on the mind so that on a day when I wanted to give up, I gave up for maybe an hour or the rest of
Mhm.
the day. But at the very least, tomorrow I tried again.
Mhm.
And that is something that is very rare in this world. Like when you experience the feeling of defeat, most people give up. Like
Mhm.
they don't try again tomorrow because that's something as adults that we don't do. Unlike a toddler learning to walk, they don't get defeated. They get up, they
Mhm.
fall again, they do it again until one day they're walking just fine. And that's kind of the mindset I took. It was learning to laugh at every mistake, every fall, every complete failure, and just really hold on to everything that could be.
Mhm. That's the perfect advice for everybody. I always give as well that those other feelings, we have them for a reason. So take your time, like you said, an hour or like something like sad or something like this in your day. Give it the time, say like time limit. Sometimes it can be only like 10 minutes that you need it. Sometimes you did,
Exactly.
and sometimes you did need do need full day. But then like knowingly say like this is the time limit that I'm gonna make for this, and then I'm gonna be doing the other thing again.
Exactly. Like, actually allowing ourselves to feel our feelings instead of shoving them down and either like trudging forward angrily or giving up. Like, neither are healthy options.
Mm-hmm. Or thinking that something is wrong with you for taking that time. There's nothing wrong with you for taking that time. You need that time, obviously.
Exactly. It is completely natural for all of us to take time. Like, even grief. Grief is one that we
Mm-hmm.
often say, well, just get over it. No, baby. Feel it.
No. Mm-hmm.
Like,
Because
let it come
can't
as it
just.
comes.
Mm-hmm. You can't just get over it without processing the feeling. The way to get over it is to process that through your body, not just mind, but physical body as well. And when you process it, then you can let it go. Because if they say,
It,
like, yeah,
exactly. The only way around our emotions is actually through.
mm-hmm. And that's the way you did it, your recovery as well. You give yourself, did you had, did you actually had like a little bit of idea of when you wanted to get done, or you were just like
See,
it?
and I would tell myself one more year, one more year,
Okay.
one more year. And even today, like I'm at 99% recovered. And
Mm-hmm.
still it's one more year. One more.
Mm-hmm. But it
and
keeps you
and
going.
right? Well, then at this point, like, it's been 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And now I have a career. I've already bought and sold my first home. Like, I I've done all of the things I wanted to do before I was paralyzed. And and it really goes to show, like, no matter what happens, you can overcome it
Mm-hmm.
as long as you take the right guided steps and you lean on the right people when you need help.
Mm-hmm. So your mindset had to be really positive in those moments still. Like your main mindset had to be really positive or knowing that you can do it.
See, and I've always had like a very sunshiny personality, but it also helped that many years before the paralysis, I was very into studying and reading about neuroplasticity and how
Mm-hmm.
the brain heals itself. And that's where I knew, I'm like, if I don't give up, I'll be 100% one day.
Mm-hmm.
And it was always that voice reminding me, you will recover.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even when I wanted to have a fit.
Mm-hmm. So Reese, have you read the I don't remember the author's name. She has a longer name, but My Stroke of Insight.
Yes, I have.
Mm-hmm. That was one of my books. Like when I was reading that one, I figured out how much we can actually control.
Right? Well, in that one, and from the early 2000s, The Brain That Heals Itself,
Okay, I have not read that one yet.
it's a
Who wrote?
little, oh, I
You
don't
don't
remember
remember
the
it?
author.
Yeah, I'm not good with the author's name. I'm good with the book names.
Right? Well, and I'm sure you remember what the cover looks like, but the author or specific chapters, never. I read too much.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So, but yeah, those are great books for everyone to read to understand how much control you can actually have instead of your thoughts having all the control and have your automatic thoughts control your life. You can actually control your own thoughts and you can control your body with your thoughts.
Right? I mean, even most people that think that they have depression, they just don't know how to manage their own thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
Like if they learned to control their thoughts, they would realize they're not depressed. They just need to take their own mind by metaphorical reins,
Mm-hmm. And start readjusting what they're thinking. That's
right?
perfect. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
don't get me wrong, like I have my bad days too. I try not to focus on them.
Mm-hmm. And I'm the same way. And I'm trying to tell people and teaching this the same thing, that it's not like when I'm teaching happiness, it's not like you're never going to have any other feelings. Other feelings are there for a reason. We have
Exactly.
all those other feelings guiding us in life for different things and letting giving us opportunities to go through different situations. But then we have a choice, kind of like what feeling we want to go back to after feeling the experiencing other feelings.
Exactly. Like process and then go back to your neutral state.
Mm-hmm.
Like
And
most days, I'm completely hunky dory, like a duck in a puddle.
mm-hmm.
But there are moments through those days where I might be angry or sad or whatever,
Or just like it's just what came to my mind right now. Just tired. Some
right? Like
days you just feel tired, and you have to
today
take
is
that
one of
time off.
those days.
Yeah, and you have to take that. But it just all comes down to being aware of yourself.
Hmm.
Because when you're aware of yourself and your thoughts, and you're not just functioning automatically, then you can have there's some point in life that you want. There's still outside uh, things that come along and everything like this. You can control the weather, you can control other people, but you can control your reactions or your thoughts about it.
Exactly. Like a rainy day doesn't have to be a sad day. It's how you see it,
Mm-mm. Yeah, it's all about what you know about. Or if somebody is angry at you, it doesn't mean that you have to get angry at them as well.
right? You can choose to just put the situation to bed and not think about it again.
Mm-hmm.
It's oh wow, Karen is mad at me.
Mm-hmm.
Tough
And
luck.
yeah, but if you can focus on it as well. Did I actually do something to make that person mad? And maybe then fix that situation, or realize that that person has its own anger and he or she's just taking off on me. So now that is inappropriate.
Right? Exactly. Like if you did nothing to cause the situation, don't carry around that suitcase worth of baggage.
Hmm. But I also believe, like, for like some other people thinking that they can just do, some people think it's really wrong. They go to the extremes and they say, well, then I can just do whatever. No, like, you can't, like I said, take your anger off on others, or if you did do something wrong, either on purpose or mostly not on purpose, accidentally, you did something wrong and you realize you did something wrong. You just, when you figure it out, you just say, like, okay, I'm sorry, you know? That should
Yeah,
be
like heh,
more simple for people to say, I'm sorry.
exactly. And we should celebrate like apologies and making amends. And I mean, even if it was a big situation and you don't want to be friends again, make peace.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And but you have to find the ways. If it's a person who does it all the time and does it on purpose, then you set boundaries. But if it's your friend who just made a mistake, like you said, you just do the um, apology. Hmm.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like
So how do you use? Yeah.
half of why the world is so angry is just because they feel like someone did them wrong.
Yeah. Nobody actually. There's wrong things in the world, but you can't return, like, change the things by doing more wrong.
Exactly. Like someone has to be the bigger person.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So, well, how do you use what you experienced now in your life when you're helping others?
Honestly, I work it a lot into my private one-on-one work with clients, in that reminding them, no matter how hard the situation feels, one day you're going to look back on it and realize, okay, this wasn't as hard as it seemed in the moment. That
Mm-hmm.
yes, right now it sucks, but later on, it's not even gonna matter.
Mm-hmm. It's just that one moment when it happens, it feels like everything's going down. And it's been proven by like people who work in the industries. They measure how long that feeling actually will last if you have good tools that you know how to control it, how to have the mindset. It
Mm-hmm.
only takes there was like some people who say less than a minute to get
Mm-hmm.
through, but they say it's between like depends how much practice you have, between 1 minute and 20 minutes to let the explosion of all the feelings and what happened to process and then figure out what to do.
But exactly. It's, and yeah, like the 30-second rule is how long it should take scientifically, but in practice, upwards of 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's just because our days are so bombarded with tasks that we often don't have time per se for our emotions.
Mm-hmm. And people get themselves like so busy with always have to do and do and do, and then they wear themselves out, and they also wear themselves out mentally because they don't give them like resting time,
Exactly.
and they
Like
feel irritated with everything, while like the person who gives themselves time to just take a little bit rest and enjoy moments and everything like this, they don't get irritated as much with the small things.
exactly. Like those of us that take the time, we generally just are able to laugh it off.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Because look how
I
much.
try and have at least I try to have at least 15 minutes between meetings. And that was perfect the other day when I spilt an entire cup of coffee down myself and I needed to go and change.
Mm-hmm.
If I
Yeah,
didn't have the time, I would have been angry for the rest of the day.
yeah, exactly. And a lot of people, they take that momentarily thing that went wrong, like you said, for the rest of the day. And some people can't take those moments where they saw some kind of injustice from somebody else, and they carry it over years.
Hmm.
Because if you would be still, Reese, if you would be still living right now as of angry about what happened when you were 16, what kind of life you would have been having?
Well, I would probably still be in a wheelchair and I would still be angry because I would have been so full of resentment that I wouldn't have tried.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's not necessarily politically correct, but I often say you can be anything you want in life. Once I was a vegetable and now I'm a woman.
Mm-hmm. So that makes a difference as well. So, uh, what I wanted to say from that paralysis, because people, I think as well, with people with better mindset, they recover faster
Hmm.
too from even
Hmm.
just as minor surgeries. If they have better mindset, they know that they're gonna go through faster. They can actually get through faster with that surgeries and sicknesses.
It's very true. I mean, there was even another teenager on the ward at the same time as me that had been through something very similar. And in the same time period we had been there, that youth had not made any progress. Versus I was ready to go home with a brace on my foot, and that was it.
Wow, that is amazing. That's a really amazing, like, compared to like having somebody with the same situation, such a different outcomes. So what do you remember from that person? What do you remember that what was uh, their attitude?
He was very alone, like his family was only there on weekends. He
Mm,
was very angry, like very, very angry. And you would hear him say in passing that he had no reason.
mm,
And that, as much as some people try to disagree with it, we all need a purpose,
mm-hmm,
even just to keep us going in an optimistic way.
mm-hmm,
Like today, I'm working towards being happy or writing a chapter of a book or whatever. But you
mm-hmm,
need something, even if they're small goals.
mm-hmm. What was your purpose in that six when you were 16? Now you're older, but when you what was your purpose then, as of that young age?
I wanted to get back to training in martial arts and pole fitness.
Mm-hmm. So it seems like, and like sometimes those things can be so simple. It doesn't
Right?
have to be, yeah, they don't have to be some major goals that like, I want to change the world or something like this. They have to be your own personal small goals that you have that you want to accomplish.
Exactly. Like, yes, the overtone can be wanting to change the world, but start with yourself. Start by becoming peaceful so that the
Mm-hmm.
people around you become peaceful.
Mm-hmm. And the way you're changing the world is by changing yourself and one person at a time. One person you help you
Exactly.
and just with making them feel better and that day is the change in the world.
Right? And sometimes that's just a smile at a stranger walking down a
Mm-hmm.
street.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it doesn't have to be $1 million idea,
Mm-hmm. And when you see that person smiling back at you, it's just like I think it's such a big gift.
right? And then you feel all glowy on the inside because all it took was 14 muscles in your face.
Exactly. And for you, it's even different to think about that because you knew how to like all those muscles and all of your one side, you had to relearn to use them. So you say 14 muscles in your face while you actually understand all the muscles in your body when you were not able to control them.
Right? And I have to say that's the most frustrating thing in the world. Not being able to just move a finger the way you want to. But now, because all the nerves are reconnected and everything is almost perfect, there are days where it feels as if I can feel every cell in my body
Mm-hmm.
just
That's
working
cool.
in harmony, and it's both wonderful and very strange.
Yeah. Oh, that made me want to ask, when do you remember how you started? Like, let's say you were not able to move your fingers, and when you actually was the first moment you were actually moved them or moved one of them. Do you remember that joy that or that emotion that you got from that?
It was like euphoria. I like complete and utter bliss. And for natural movement, it was the middle finger on my bad hand, which was funny. And from that point forward, we had the joke: if I'm flipping you off, it's physiotherapy.
That is good. Yeah. So that's the magic of the how body can heal itself though as well.
Exactly. Like, even if you break your leg, eventually the bone will heal, and then you
Mm-hmm.
can rehab the muscles. And if you are dedicated to that task, you will walk as you did originally once again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what I wanted to point out another. Oh, now I wanted to ask about when you start writing your books because you wrote two books.
I
What
wrote the
age was
first.
that?
I was 19 when I wrote the first one. It came out when I was 20.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I started writing it actually after a college professor encouraged me to do bigger things with my life than being in first year college because I was very bored.
Okay.
And and from there she did encourage me to write a book, and I did. I
Mm-hmm.
I drafted it from start to finish in, I think it was just under 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second book I actually didn't write and release until last year. And that one is less about paralysis and it's more a critical thinking feminist manifesto of the world we live in today. Like, yes, it looks at the lens of all of my experiences, but it's not my narrative. It's a very common narrative covering everything else that I've been through. I It follows, although there's paralysis in there, the narrative was a kid that was abused, ended up as a high risk teenager in some bad situations. I ended up addicted to alcohol after the paralysis,
Mm-hmm.
and then one day woke up, got past the addiction, continued to recover, and to this day is just happily building their dream life.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the difference in my narrative is just that I broke the cycle.
Mm-hmm.
Most women do not get to the point where it's I overcame this.
Mm-hmm.
Most people end up falling further down the hole of addiction and they don't come out.
Mm-hmm. So what it takes to overcome? What would be your advice to take those? What first steps to do to overcome that when they really down and like they think everything is wrong? There's no point. What advice would you give them for that moment? How to think?
Well, to help get yourself out of the mindset, I would say reach out to someone that you trust, whether that be a friend or a professional, because no matter what the dark states of your mind tell you, you matter, you are valued, and you are beyond loved.
Hmm. And that those are great words to just tell yourself and start from there. Say those words and start from there. And like you said, reach out for help. And I like that this is more available now for people to understand that getting mental help or taking care of your mental health is nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong. It's same like taking care of your body. You have to take care of your
Right?
mind, and it's same way. Before it was like
Right?
looked down to like, oh, there's something wrong with this person going to the therapy. No, everybody should have that availability if they need it, you know?
Right? And statistically, at one point or another, we all struggle at one point in our life.
Mm-hmm.
So why don't we just say, "Hey, I'm struggling. Can you give me a hand?"
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Exactly. And
and
get good at them. Yeah, and
and
go
that's
and get that
where
help without thinking anything is wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you. And that's why you need to get the help in the beginning when there's nothing wrong with you so it doesn't escalate.
Exactly. Like the sooner that you nip it in the bud and get the help that you need, the better off and the sooner you can live your best life instead of hating yourself or feeling unloved or whatever it may be. Like that there's so much more to life than just struggle.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And I also don't believe people say like people yeah since I teach happiness, I don't believe when people have this old mentality saying that, oh, you have to have the struggle to understand happiness. There's plenty of people, well, you went through the struggle, but there's plenty of people who didn't go through the struggle, and they are allowed to be happy as well. They don't have to go through the struggle. But if you do
Right?
go to struggle, then you have more opportunities, and you don't do have opportunities to go back in a good life again.
Right? Or even like I have clients that have been through less that know my story and they will try and compare. Honey, I don't want you to go through as much as I did. I don't want anyone to. I
Mm-hmm.
would rather your biggest trauma was losing your favorite job when you were 19.
Mm-hmm.
I would rather that that was your trauma because trauma isn't about the event, it's about how we experience it. And that is why that it's singular methodology. All trauma is treated the same way
Mm-hmm.
because it's just the psychological process, not the event itself.
Mm-hmm. So, tell us a little bit more about that because that's a really, really valid idea. It's not the event. It's about you, how you perceive the event. That's how kind of like you were saying it.
Yes, because unfortunately, if an event hurts us enough, it actually just causes our brains to rewire. And that is why your limbic and nervous system will stay in a flight or fight response for years if left undealt with. And really, the beginning of that work is just nurturing you and teaching you how to not just feel safe where you live or where you exist, but in your own body again. It's, oh, I feel safe and I've begun to trust myself again. Oh, oh, all these doors are opening because I trust myself. And
Mm-hmm.
and that's where the magic really starts. Is once a person feels safe and they realize that they made the best decisions that they could have at the time no matter what happened, the world gets a lot brighter and you start to see that sparkly tint return to a person's eyes.
Mm-hmm. That's a great way to say. And now for the somebody who's watching it, like maybe somebody's watching it right in a specific time in their life, they found the video and they're like, oh, this is exactly what I needed to watch right now. So for them to understand that this is the moment when you make the change, you know, and then like you said, you decide that you're making this change and that event that happened is not going to carry over for the rest of your life because you're turning it over now.
Exactly. Like today is the day you turn a new leaf because you don't have to
Hmm.
live with it forever.
Yeah, that's it. Like, we're getting really good information out there. And also the way you says today, you might start today, but then you have to understand, like we talked previously as well, that there's going to be some days and you feel like, okay, it's not working, or I like just don't want to do it again. And that's okay as well. And then that's when you take your time off and
Exactly.
process other feelings. I noticed as well, like when I was a lot of people now start talking this, and previously it was not such a quote before out there, by saying like, if you feel tired or if you feel overwhelmed, you don't give up, you take a break. or you take a rest.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And I hate to be grateful for a pandemic, but that shift there that happened during the pandemic where people said, "Oh, you're exhausted? Take it easy."
Mm-hmm.
I love that we are starting to, I guess, shift back to the old ways where we honor our bodies a little bit more and we say, "Hey, boss, I need that sick day. I'm not coming in today. I need to sleep."
Mm-hmm. It was gonna take some time. Like I agree with you, but it's gonna take some time for the bosses to accept and understand it, because for them as well, they will get more out of that person if that person has that day that they need. They will come in next day and they probably or probably will come in next day and they have double their energy to do what you want them to do.
It
You know.
exactly. I When we rest properly, our productivity more than doubles. And
Mm-hmm.
then, I mean, even when I employ people, I would rather they were rested and productive so that even they have a time to breathe during the day. Like, I don't want it to be a high stress environment, not for myself, not for anyone.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I don't
None of
think.
us get paid enough.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing as well. We have to take care of our health to be able to do the work. You know, if we don't care, take care of ourselves and our stress levels and all that, then we're gonna wear ourselves. Then the boss is gonna wear their employees out. They're not gonna get the productivity and the attitude that they want. And the employees, they're they just neglect their body, and their body is gonna wear off. So.
Exactly. And
Hmm.
then from that point, you will eventually end up with a chronic illness if you
Hmm.
don't take care of your body for long enough. I mean,
Hmm.
even your emotions can turn into chronic pain.
Hmm. That is true as well. So, what are you working on now?
Now, I run a no-cost weekly women's group that is virtual.
Hmm.
And besides that, I'm working on my methodology book. I'm going to be releasing in part of an anthology this year. And
Mm.
then I just have my private one on one coaching.
Hmm. And I have your websites and everything in the descriptions as well. So people who are interested working with Reese on 101 or one of those groups, look at the descriptions so you can get in touch. All the things. Well, I have. We're gonna talk more as well, but I always ask, and this is actually interesting for me now. As a happiness expert, I always ask my guests, what is your definitions of happiness? Not what everybody else thinks that happiness is, but what do you really think that happiness is?
I would say walking around with a smile on my face and feeling that warm glow on the inside.
Hmm. Perfect. And then the second question that I ask is, what are the like specific activity or things that you do that make you feel happy? So momentarily happiness.
For me, I would say my top three are working out, meditating, and working on music in my spare time.
Oh, yeah. Cool. Those are like the easy things that I always point out for people, that you need to have easy things that we have to relearn to make things easy again, and start to make thinking everything to be so complicated, and everything has to be complicated, otherwise it's not real. Instead of going down to like, no, you just have to know those simple things that work.
Exactly. Like life is way more simple than we make it out to be.
Okay. Yeah. That's exactly how you would say it. And I wish more people will start. And what do you think for future? You think people are starting to understand more or better ways?
Oh, definitely. And especially the youth that I used to work with. The generations that are coming after me are growing up with emotional intelligence. They I have, it's rare, but I have clients that are in their early 20s saying, I experienced this and I need to work with you for 3 months to overcome my trauma so that I can live a good life young. And I look at them in awe.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I didn't have that language when I was that young. I wasn't ready for healing quite yet.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
it gives me lots of hope because I know we're still evolving, even if it's really slow.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think the same way because the new generations, our generation is already starting to understand the emotional intelligence, and we are teaching it to the new generation. It is moving forward, and we're gonna have that moment where there's gonna be more emotionally intelligent people who can actually manage their feelings instead of taking them out on others.
Exactly. And that's really exciting.
Hmm.
Like, one day I won't need to have a job anymore.
What do you mean by that? Because I understand kind of like the things, but what's your vision of that kind of future?
Well, I mean, it might be idealistic, but I do see that eventually, if not in my lifetime, we will live in a world that's trauma free because enough people that will have done their healing that we're not starting wars over money or religion anymore because we respect each other's differences. And
Hmm.
maybe money won't be the big thing eventually. Like, maybe we won't care.
Hmm. Well, they have to figure something out with the artificial intelligence and everything. So the change is gonna may come around, and the human life gonna be more valuable than money.
Exactly.
So that's the point we have to get finally. We'll see when we get there, but that's what I see as a goal.
Right?
Hmm.
Like, fingers crossed.
It takes time. It takes time for all the everybody, some of the other generations to either accept it or change what they're thinking, and the new generations just growing up knowing it. And also one thing as well, I put like I understand the previous generations because they didn't have that knowledge. They just simply didn't know any better.
Right? Well, and it's funny because even my grandma, I she may be very old, but she's very open now that she's retired to learning and experiencing different viewpoints and maybe not having a stick up her ass.
Yeah, because you can relearn like all your old. You don't have to be stuck on your old beliefs. Just be open minded of learning the new things. You don't have to always agree on things. I always say it's always acceptable to agree to disagree as well. You know.
Yes, yes, and I like that the generations after me are starting to get there again, where they're like, okay, as long as it's not human rights, we're good. We can disagree.
Mm-hmm. So as long as you don't hurt anybody, we're fine. You know. We don't have to have.
Ex-
We don't have to like the same food.
Exactly. Like, we don't
Mm-hmm.
have to have the same favorite color. We don't
Mm-hmm.
have to both like men.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. All those things. So we're starting to get close to closing the hour. So um, what? Give us some last thoughts that you have. That's been really good conversation as well. Like a lot of, I think we got a lot of information out. Especially, I think it will be somebody who kind of watched the video on not knowing what it's going to be about or something like this and realized it was
Mhm.
exactly what they needed to watch and listen in this moment to get through them on some situation or get a new mindset.
I hope so. Honestly, to everyone that watches this, I would say whenever an emotion or even a physical feeling in your body gets intense, take a moment to just focus on your breathing. Whether you keep it natural or you slow it down to try and regulate your body, just focus on your breath. And by distracting yourself or pulling your attention away from the feeling or the situation, it's going to immediately alleviate what you're experiencing.
Mhm. That's a really cool tool for everybody to just do it even now. Just do it right now. As soon as we end the episodes, do it right now and experience this moment with your breathing. So, thank you, Reese. Thank you for your knowledge and all the information and sharing your story.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's been an honor.
Yeah. And the viewers, take that moment to do the breathing and just take the moment to be for yourself in this moment and realize what you feel, how you want to feel, and what do you want to create. So, have a great day. Bye.